In today's video, I'm going to be spending 24 hours locked inside of a pet store. I'll have to take care of expensive fish shipments, non-stop customers, and even having to sleep here overnight. It all started when I showed up to the store and was surrounded by a bunch of fish tanks. And that's when I met the owner, Henry. He's been working in the aquarium hobby for over 20 years, and he has grown one of the top stores in the state. But for the next 24 hours, he's leaving me in charge of his store. So he handed me the keys, gave me instructions, and wished me good luck. So with hour 1 started, I figured I'd give you a layout of the store while we put on our uniform. The store is a rectangular shape with live animals and plants on the right side and all the pet products on the left. They have fresh and saltwater tanks filled with crazy stuff and one of the best plant selections in the state. On the right side of the store, they have all the dry products like food, chemicals, and a huge selection of new fish tanks to choose from. I really like this big one, so maybe we can convince him to give it to us if this video hits 1 million views. Once I was ready in my uniform, it was time to get the store ready for the day before our customers start showing up. So I grabbed our instructions, and first on the list, we need to turn on all the lights in the fish tanks and the plant section. This store has over 100 tanks running at all times, so today is definitely going to be busy. Next, we need to make sure the shelves are organized and the tanks look good before we open. So I did a quick scan of all the tanks, and we are checking for dirty tanks and any fish who didn't make it through the night. I ended up finding this larger tank that needed some cleanup and some smaller beta tanks that needed some help too. So we'll clean those soon when the employees get here. But let's go check the shelves. I came over to the dry food section and it was very messed up. Henry told me the store was extremely busy these last couple days and he hadn't had any time to clean up. So I put all the products back in order, and now with it being 10:30 and our store opening in 30 minutes, I went over to the hardscape area. This store has a bunch of different rocks and decor for tanks, like reef rocks and even these logs that we use in our swamp ecosystem. And that's when I heard the door open and our employees got here. For their privacy, I'm going to be showing only their hands, but I know they'll be a huge help today. So I told them about the tanks we need to clean. I went to check the rest of the tanks near the counter, freshwater ones and saltwater ones. Check out this cool looking hermit crab. Once I checked everything out, it was time to open the door for customers. Henry told me the mornings are usually slow, and he usually deals with inventory and maintenance until the first customer shows up. So I went over to our beta tanks, and our employees were busy cleaning. They'll need to do a water change with this cool garbage can setup. It has a pump on the top, and it pulls the clean water and pushes it into the tank. They'll also need to scrape the glass and clean out the filter for any waste. It's important to stay on top of the water parameters in each tank, or you'll have many sick fish. So once they finished the beta tank, it was time to feed our betas. So I grabbed some live blackworms and dropped a couple pinches into each tank. Live blackworms are one of the best food you can give betas because they're packed with protein and help bring out their natural hunting behavior. Once our betas were fed, we had our first customer come in. So I took them over to the shrimp section and showed them what we had in stock. They really liked the red ones and asked for 5 of them. So I grabbed a container and a net to scoop out our shrimp. This was one of the stores I sold my shrimp to in the shrimp business video, so I wonder if any of these are from me. Once we had our shrimp in the container, I brought them over to the prep station and bagged them up for our customer. These shrimp are so bright in color, and I'm so happy they're going to a new home. So we made our first sale of the day, and we're completing our first challenge in today's video. We will need to complete 6 side quests in order to leave the store, so it's gonna be a crazy day. Once our customer left, I got a call on the phone, and Henry told me there was a shipment of fish coming in the next couple hours, so we need to get ready. I didn't know we'd get new fish today, so we're all in for a surprise when it gets here. Next on our instructions, we have to pack some online orders. We need to pack a dry product order, so I went over to the product section and grabbed our bottles to pack up. These are a medication for fish that targets parasites and tapeworms. Once our order was packed, we went over to the water station and started filling out our containers. There's a local customer that comes every 2 weeks and grabs a bunch of these for his huge tank. The water that's in these bins is RO water, which is reverse osmosis. It's filtered to remove any impurities, and for large tanks especially, consistency is key. So getting RO water is one of the most important parts of keeping a tank healthy and thriving. Once I finished filling up the jars, it was time to feed more of our fish. So I grabbed a jar of fish food and dropped in some pinches into the tank. While I was feeding the fish, I came over to the goldfish tank because they reminded me of Carson the goldfish, but this white one caught my eye. I thought I was seeing things, but this goldfish literally didn't have any eyes. The employee told me that it's healthy and he came like that as a baby, but nobody wants him since he can't see. So if you guys want me to buy him and build him a dream home, then comment buy the blind fish. We then had a couple more customers walk in, but they just walked around a little and then they left. That's when I got a call that the fish delivery had just arrived and the van was outside. So I grabbed our cart and wheeled it out to pick it up, and we ended up getting 2 boxes of fish. So I brought them back to the prep station to start unboxing them. I was told there'd be over 50 different types of fish, so I'm excited to see what we got. In order to do this properly, we first need to identify all the tanks we have to put the fish in first. It's important we separate all the different types of fish so they don't fight with each other. So I printed out these tags and added them to the tanks where I think they should go. Once that was finished, I opened up our first box, and inside were about 20 bags of fish. Before we can add any of them to their tanks, we need to float the bags in for a couple hours so the water temperatures can slowly match the bags. First up, we have diamond tetras. These fish are absolutely stunning. Their scales reflect light almost like tiny diamonds and look amazing when they're swimming in a group. I decided to put them here in this tank and went over to grab some more fish. Next up, we have some pearl danios. The pearl danios are going into a shrimp tank. These fish stay pretty small, so they can hang out with the shrimp for now. As for the neon tetras, we're adding those in with our other tetras. These have a bright blue and red color that really stands out. I'll show you a couple more fish, and then I'll open up the second box. Next up, we have 2 different types of corridoras, black diamond cories and violet cories. Even though they're both corridoras and pretty much have the same personality, they look completely different. The black diamond cories have a much darker appearance, while the violet cories have a lighter color. And for the last one in this box, we have hatchet fish and a bag of mystery snails. I'm honestly really excited about these hatchet fish. They're one of those fish that just look completely different from everything else. The one thing people don't realize is that fish don't always show their full colors right away. When they've been moved in a box, they can look a little pale or stressed, but over the next couple hours and day, their colors will really start to come in as they get comfortable in their new environment. For the second box, we're going to speed it up a little because we have a lot of work to do today. I'll show you what they look like more later once they're actually in the tank. But for now, we need to feed some of our tanks with our next type of food. So I went over to the food supply, and honestly, I don't know what this is. They told me it's a super secret fish food formula that they've been using for years that supposedly keeps the fish strong and healthy. I dropped a couple pinches into the saltwater tanks, and instantly you could see the fish going crazy for it. What surprised me even more is they actually feed this stuff to the coral tanks too. If you guys want to see me build a coral tank, let me know in the comments down below. Once I finished feeding everything, another delivery guy showed up with a stack of boxes. I checked the paperwork, and there's actually a custom order for a customer who's building a massive tank setup. Plus we got a plant delivery, so I'll let the employees deal with the custom order, and I'm gonna unbox the plants. I brought the plant box over to the table and opened it up. We got a mix of plants for the tanks and some floaters in these cups. I took the floaters over to this fridge, which keeps them cool and moist so they don't dry out. If we put these into the tanks, they'll cause more issues with maintenance, so they prefer to keep them separate. Next up was the loose plants. Some of our plants will be growing under the water, and some of the plants will be growing out of the water. This store has an automated misting system that keeps the plants hydrated, so everything stays green and healthy. In my opinion, the store has the best plant section in the whole state. And once I finished adding our outside plants, it was time to add the plants in the water. Just as I was going to add our plants, a customer came up to the plant section and asked me a question. So I showed him a couple different options, and he really liked this coconut shell covered in moss, but he ended up getting some other plants he thought was cool. So I bagged up the plants and made our first plant sale for the day. Hopefully these grow great in his setup. Now it's time to finish with our plants. Once I finished with the plant delivery, the employees put the custom order in the back and told me there was a couple boxes of dry products, so I grabbed both boxes and we ended up getting some food and chemicals. The food is from a brand called Sarah. They sent a mix of different types of food for fresh and saltwater tanks, so I brought them over to the shelf and organized them by color. Then it was time to restock the chemicals. These are from a brand called Chem. I've used these many times in my own tanks, So I went over to the shelf and made sure everything looked back to normal. Once we finished, I figured it was a good time to take my lunch since it wasn't busy, but I realized I left my lunchbox at the Simply HQ, so I didn't have any food with me. So I pulled out my phone and opened up Uber Eats to find some food to get delivered. I placed my order and it should be here in about 30 minutes. So while we wait for my food, I figured I could show you some of the setups they have here on display in the store. They have some smaller setups on the counter with tiny fish, or they have these huge tanks that are absolute masterpieces. Look at this tank with this huge piece of driftwood hanging out the top, with many plants growing off it. They also have a couple of tanks that are meant for quarantining sick fish. Most pet stores will just let the sick fish with the healthy ones, and it affects the whole tank. So this store does a good job separating the sick fish from the healthy ones. I came back to the saltwater section, and they have some really nice setups with coral and fish. Everywhere you look, there's new snails, fish, and shrimp. I even found this little mangrove pond under the tanks. This is like a dream setup for me, but I think you need a special permit to keep mangroves in my state. I even found this starfish that was literally the size of my hand. That's gotta be the biggest starfish I've ever seen. And that's when I heard a knock on the door, and our food was outside. So I ate our food really quick because I need to unbag our new fish soon. Once we finished our lunch, I grabbed some materials to add in our fish. I grabbed a bucket to catch the water from the bag. It's important when adding new fish to an established tank, you don't want to add the old water into the new tank. So the store likes to add only the fish. So I added some of our fish into the tank, and right now they're stressed, so we'll leave them to settle in, and we'll be back later after closing to see how they're doing. We also got a bag of snails, so they like to spread these out into multiple tanks so they can control algae and eat leftover food. Once we added in all the fish, it created a huge mess of water all over the floor. So I ran over to place a caution sign and grabbed a mop. Since I'm the boss today, we need to make sure no customers get hurt. So with the store closing soon, we need to help the last customers and finish a couple more things before everyone leaves and we're locked inside by ourselves. So a couple people came into the store and bought a couple goldfish with some rocks for their new 75-gallon tank. I tried filming the sale, but they didn't want to be filmed. So I helped the last couple customers and closed the store for the night. I went over to our instructions, and Henry told us we needed to turn off the lights on all of our tanks and in the store. So I found the switches for the tanks. And then I found a switch for all the lights in the store. I was expecting it to be really dark, but it looks like they have a couple lights on 24/7. So I think it's best we set up our bed here on the turf, because it's right under the light. I grabbed my supply box and pulled out my sleeping bag and pillow for the night. Listen, this isn't going to be the best sleep, but it's better than nothing. Henry also left us an old tank to design that he's going to be putting on display if he likes, so we can fully customize a tank tonight while we're here. He also told me that we can use anything we want in the store. Check out these tanks they have on display. These are so cool because you don't have to maintain them, so we're definitely going to have to go a little crazy. I think it's best we start with the tank now, so I wanted to start with the foundation. I grabbed a couple different options like aqua soil, sand, or gravel, but I figured aqua soil would be best. I found this huge container in the back of the store, so we didn't have to open any bags. I scooped a good amount into the tank, and then it was time to start with the hardscape. They have so many different types of wood and rocks, but every piece I found was either too big or too small. But then I remembered this cool decoration over by the chemicals. It looks like a tree island that's dried up over time, so I brought it back to the tank, and it fit perfectly. I even dug the island into the aqua soil, so it looks like it was a part of the tank. I figured we can keep the same style, and I actually found these cholla logs we use in our swamp ecosystem. So I added some into the front of the tank to resemble dried up trees. And then it was time to find some rocks. I found a bunch of different options, but none really matched. And then I found these. So I grabbed a container and filled a bunch of smaller and larger rocks. And I don't really have any set plan. I'm just gonna scatter them out and fill around the gaps. Once all the rocks were placed, I finished our tank and it was time to go to bed. But I kept hearing noises outside, so I went to go check. I was the only person there. So since I couldn't sleep, I figured I'd go grab some snacks from our supply bin, and I grabbed some of my favorite candies. These two candies are actually made by two different YouTubers. Maybe one day I can make a candy or something. So I edited some videos while I ate my candy, and I eventually went to sleep. I woke up the next morning early, so we can check on our fish from the delivery. I turned on all the lights in the tanks, and it seemed like our new additions were doing well. I went straight over to the hatchet fish, since I thought those were the coolest one. Their bodies are shaped like a big knife, which is why they get their name. I'd love to keep these guys as pets, but they need a huge tank. Next up I went over to the tetras, and their colors were so bright compared to yesterday. They must really be enjoying the new tank. We also got these cool looking stingrays. I saw shiny scales raised for a video one time, but they're actually called hill stream loaches. I could sit here all day and show you the fish we got, but there's a couple things we need to do before the store opens. We need to fill some tanks with water, so I grabbed a container of RO water and brought it over to the discus tank. Discus are some of the most impressive fish in the entire store. They're known for their bright colors and the way they glide through the water. A lot of people in the hobby love these fish, and they're a dream for a lot of people to own. The problem is they're very demanding and need very clean, high quality water. So I added in our water to make sure everything was good, and after that we need to organize the shelves so all the labels are facing forward. Once we finished, I came over to this section and I found these brine shrimp in a tiny jar. So if you want to see me raise 1,000,000 baby shrimp, then comment raise the baby shrimp. That's when I heard a knock on the door and saw Henry waiting. So I walked over and let him in. And then it was time to show him the dryscape. So I walked over and looked at it for a little bit and then gave me a thumbs up. He told me he's going to put it on display in the store to see if someone wants to buy it. So if you like what I did, come visit Nature Aquariums. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Nature Aquariums for letting us do this video. If you guys want to show your support, I'll link their website and YouTube channel down below. They make great informational videos on tank setups and learning more about the hobby. So after I showed Henry the fish tank, we completed our 24-hour challenge, and I handed him back the keys and walked outside for the first time in 24 hours. If you enjoyed this video, then watch me build a swamp ecosystem.